Homeless black boy shouts, "Don't eat that." Billionaire is stunned to learn the reason the city plaza was full of sound and motion at lunchtime. Cars rolled in, horns tapped, and shoes clicked across the wide stone path. The smell of grilled meat, bread, and sweet sauces drifted from a row of street stalls under bright awnings. Office workers stood in lines and scrolled on their phones. A small band played a cheerful tune near the fountain, and the water made a soft, steady splash. In the middle of this busy scene, a long black car pulled up to the curb and stopped with a quiet sigh. Victor Hale stepped out first. He was tall, neat, and calm, the kind of man who moved as if time listened to him. He wore a plain dark suit without any flash, but everything about him looked expensive. He owned companies most people only read about. His aide, Tessa, came around the back, checked the time, and nodded to a security guard. She crossed the plaza to a popular street stall that served fast, colorful bowls. The line was long, but the staff worked quickly, scooping rice and vegetables into paper bowls, drizzling sauces, and passing plates to waiting hands. A boy sat near the curb with a worn backpack against his chest. He was thin, his jeans were faded, and his shoes had scuffed toes. His name was Malik. He did not look lost. He watched. His eyes moved carefully over the scene, noticing small things most people missed. He saw the way one stall worker wiped the counter, how another switched tongs between pans, and how a third filled a spray bottle from a large jug by the sink. He had learned these details mattered. Malik's nose wrinkled a little. A sharp scent cut through the usual mix of fry oil and spice. It was bright and a little sweet, like oranges, but with a bitter bite behind it. He had smelled it before in back rooms, on rags, and on a mop handle. It was a cleaner, strong enough to strip grease, not something you mixed with food. He leaned forward, eyes fixed on the worker with the unmarked bottle. The worker misted the counter and the handles of a tong, set the bottle down, wiped once with a cloth, and went right back to plating. Tessa reached the front of the line. She ordered quickly and pointed back toward Victor so the staff would know this plate was for the important man by the car. The cook nodded and moved even faster. Malik watched the same tongs touch the pan, then the wet counter, then the food. He saw the thin spray still clinging to the metal where the light hit it. He saw the cook make a quick grab for a napkin, then change his mind and place the food on a paper plate. Victor stood by the car, reading a short note on his phone. A bodyguard kept a quiet eye on the crowd but did not look tense. The plaza band slid into a slower song. People laughed and shifted bags from one hand to the other. Malik's heart started to pound. He didn't want to cause a scene, and he didn't want to be wrong. But he knew the smell. He knew what that bottle was. He knew what could happen when solvent touched serving tools and then touched food. He had been sick once from a mistake like that, sick enough to remember every hour of it. The plate changed hands. Tessa thanked the staff and turned back toward Victor. The cook glanced toward the jug under the sink and looked away fast, as if hoping no one had seen. Malik stood up. His fingers gripped the strap of his backpack, and he took a breath that trembled in his chest. He saw Tessa offer the plate to Victor. The food steamed in the cool air. The band went quiet between songs. The boy took one step and then another, and his voice broke out before he could stop it. "Don't eat that!" The shout carried across the plaza. Heads turned. The bodyguard took one long stride, placing himself between Victor and the voice. Tessa pulled the plate back in surprise. A few people in line at the stall edged away, unsure. The cook froze with his hand on the ladle. Malik lifted both hands to show he meant no harm. His words came faster, but he kept his voice clear. He pointed, not at Victor, but at the stall. "Please," he said. They sprayed the counter and the tongs with a cleaner. "It's not a food sanitizer. It's a degreaser. It smells like citrus, but it's stronger." The tongs weren't rinsed. "Please don't eat it." The bodyguard looked to Victor for a signal. Victor raised his hand slightly, asking for patience. His face showed surprise, not anger, and even a hint of curiosity. Calmly, he set the plate on the hood of the car. Tessa, who had pressed her lips into a tight line, stepped closer to Malik. "How do you know that?" she asked, cautious but not unkind. Malik pointed again, slower this time. "The bottle is clear with a gray nozzle. The liquid is a little cloudy. The smell is wrong for food. A food-safe sanitizer smells faint or like vinegar. This is like orange peel but bitter. It makes a thin foam when it hits grease." They sprayed, wiped once, and kept serving. The tongs touched it, then the food. The stall owner came forward, wiping his hands on his apron. He looked worried about losing business. "It's just water," he said quickly. "We use water in the bottle. It is clean water to keep the counter shiny." This boy is confused. A few customers nodded, ready to believe it, ready to keep the line moving. But one of the stall workers looked down at the floor, then at the jug near the sink, and then at the unmarked bottle on the counter. Malik did not move. He did not raise his voice again. He looked at Victor, not pleading, just steady. Victor turned to his driver. "May I have a bottle of water?" he asked. The driver handed it over at once. Victor opened it and poured a small stream over the metal tongs, letting the water run into a paper cup. It foamed more than clean water should, a thin white sheen that clung to the cup. Tessa's eyebrows lifted. A woman in line stepped back. The bodyguard said nothing, but his eyes narrowed at the bottle. The building manager from the tower behind the stall had noticed the commotion and came to the counter. "Everything all right here?" he asked. He looked at the cup, then leaned closer, sniffed, and nodded slowly. "We use a citrus solvent like that for the garage floor," he said. "Comes in big jugs. Heavy-duty stuff. It's not for food contact. It can break down grease, yes, but it can also cut the oils you need in your mouth and throat. Not good." The stall owner swallowed. We buy the same brand for cleaning because it smells nice," he said, softer now. "I thought the spray bottle was water. Maybe someone filled it wrong. We've been very busy." Tessa kept her voice even. "We're not here to fight," she said. "But we need to be sure no one gets sick." She looked to Victor. People around them watched with alert faces. The band had started again, but the music felt far away now. The line at the stall had thinned to a few cautious customers who now shifted to other vendors. Victor spoke quietly, as if this were a private meeting. "Please pause service for a moment," he said to the stall owner. "Check your bottles. Label them clearly. Rinse or replace your tongs. If you have any doubt, throw out the food that was near the spray. We'll wait." The owner nodded, his face pale. He turned to his team. "Close for a few minutes," he said. "We will reset. No more serving until everything is checked." His staff moved quickly, pulling the bottle, rolling a trash bin over, and dropping the used tongs into a sink with running water. The worker who had done the spraying whispered, "I'm sorry," to the others. No one shouted at him. They just worked. Victor gave the plate back to Tessa and stepped a little closer to Malik, careful not to crowd him. "You could have walked away," he said. "You chose to speak. That shows courage. It also shows you were sure." His eyes were thoughtful, not stern. "How did you know?" Malik's shoulders lowered a fraction. He had kept himself ready in case someone told him to go away. He had felt that many times before. But now the important man was asking a real question, not an angry one. The boy looked at the bottle again, then back at Victor. He took a breath and steadied his voice. "I learned from my mom," he said. "She worked in kitchens. She taught me the smells and the colors. She said unmarked bottles are trouble. She made me practice. The word mom softened the air around them. Tessa glanced at Victor, then back at Malik. A couple who had stopped to watch moved on, satisfied the food would be checked. The band's music drifted back into focus. A delivery bike zipped past the curb. The plaza found its normal rhythm again, but a ring of quiet seemed to hold around the small group at the car. Victor nodded once. His gaze moved from Malik's face to the backpack held tight against the boy's chest and then to the stall where the staff were relabelling bottles with a marker and tape. He could have left then. He could have asked his driver to find another place to eat. He could have treated this as a strange moment in a busy day. Instead, he stayed. "I appreciate your care," he said. "You did not shout to make a scene. You shouted to prevent harm. That matters." He paused and added, in the same calm tone, "I will not eat from that plate, of course. And I don't think anyone should until they check all of it. But I am interested in you as well, young man. What is your name?" "Malik," the boy said. "Thank you, Malik," Victor said. "Thank you for speaking. Thank you for noticing what others missed." He looked at the foam still clinging to the side of the paper cup and then at the unmarked bottle now set aside. His mind ticked through quiet calculations, not about money, but about trust, habits, and small errors that turn into big problems. He thought of people he cared about who could have eaten from that plate if he had brought the food back to the office. He thought of many strangers who might eat at this stall every day. Tessa exhaled, the kind of breath a person takes when danger has passed but the body has not caught up yet. She checked her watch, then closed her notebook with a soft snap. "We can find another lunch spot," she said, almost to herself, then looked at Malik. "Would you walk with us, Malik? Just to the corner cafe. We won't ask anything more. I think Mr. Hale has one more question for you." Malik looked at the car, at the guard, at the shoes of the people walking by. He looked at the corner cafe with its glass door and sunny logo. He did not know if this was a test, an offer, or just a kind moment. But Victor's question still waited in the air, kind and firm. "How did you know?" The answer was more than one smell and one bottle. It was years of small lessons, a careful eye, and a memory he could not forget. He nodded. "I can walk," he said, his voice quiet again. They started across the plaza together, not in a tight group, but in a loose line that made room for other people to pass. The stall owner called after them, "Thank you," his voice honest, and Malik nodded without turning around. The fountain sound picked up as they approached the cafe. The band leader tipped his hat. A pigeon hopped twice and then took flight. Victor held the cafe door and gestured for Malik to go in first. The boy stopped on the threshold. He looked at the counter, at the labels, at the clear spray bottles that said sanitizer in bold letters. He looked at the sink with fresh water running and a staff member washing her hands to the count of 20. He breathed in the warm smell of bread and broth. It was a good smell, clean and simple. Victor watched him, not rushing. "So," he said at last, "the question now." Victor did not rush the question. He let the door close behind them, and he waited until Malik found a quiet corner table by the window. The cafe was bright and clean. Clear bottles on the shelves had neat labels. A staff member wiped a table with a cloth that came from a fresh bucket, then changed the water in the bucket and wrote the time on a small white card. Malik watched these little steps and let his breathing slow down. The fear he felt on the plaza was fading. Now he could use his calm voice. He set his backpack on the floor and folded his hands on the table. "I knew because of my mom," he said. "She worked in kitchens. She said the first rule is this: if the bottle is not labeled, do not use it. She showed me the difference between the smell of vinegar and the smell of solvent. She made me practice closing my eyes and naming smells. She said safety is a habit, not a mood." Victor took in each word. He did not look at his phone. Tessa stood at the counter and ordered soup and bread for everyone, then came back. "What happened to your mom?" she asked, gently. "She got sick," Malik said. His voice stayed steady, but he looked down at his hands. "She still worked when she could. When she was too tired, her friends helped. I tried to help too. I washed vegetables. I checked dates. Sometimes I stood by the sink and counted to 20 with her so we washed our hands long enough." He paused and lifted his eyes again. "One day, after she was gone, I ate food that had touched a dirty surface. I did not know then. I was very sick for 2 days. Since that time, I pay close attention. At shelters or church meals, I look for labels and for the way people handle tools. Most people try hard to do things right. But busy days make it easy to miss a step. I try to notice." The server brought their trays. The soup bowls were hot. The bread was wrapped in paper with a printed date. Malik smiled a little at the date. "Good," he said softly. He asked the server, "Has the soup stayed hot all morning?" The server nodded and pointed at a small temperature log taped near the counter. The numbers were written in clean pen strokes. The time boxes were filled. Malik thanked her. Victor watched him check without judgment or show. It was not a game. It was care. He broke a piece of bread and passed it to Malik. "You have a careful mind," Victor said. "And you used it for strangers." "Someone once used their care for me," Malik said. "When I first slept in the church basement, a volunteer came early. He made sure the milk in the fridge had not been left out overnight. He showed me the safest shelf for bread. He taught me to write down the time I opened a package. He said the work is simple, but the habit is the hard part. If you do the habit, you save people without meeting them." Tessa checked a message that buzzed her phone and looked up. "The building manager called the city," she said. "An inspector is on the way to the stall. He asked us to share what we saw." She turned her screen so Malik could see the text. "Do you want to tell them?" "Yes," Malik said. "If they ask questions, I will answer." They ate. The soup was plain but warm. The cafe filled with a light lunch crowd. A child at the next table drew a sun on a napkin and laughed at her own drawing. Malik felt his shoulders drop another inch. For the first time that day, he was not bracing for someone to tell him to move along. He was just a person eating soup at a table. It felt like standing on level ground after a long walk over stones. Victor asked about school. Malik explained how he went to the public library when it opened. He picked seats near the outlet row. He watched videos about food safety, public health, and basic biology. He said he liked short lessons that used pictures and plain words. He kept a small notebook in his bag with simple lists: hot above this, cold below that, wash hands, wet, soap, scrub 20, rinse, dry, label every bottle. "Do you study every day?" Victor asked. "Most days," Malik said. "When I can find a quiet place. The library staff know me. Sometimes they save a seat near the window. When it rains, I sit near the heater to dry my shoes so I do not leave wet marks on the floor. I do not want to be seen as a problem. I want to be seen as someone trying." "Someone trying," Victor repeated. He liked the phrase. It was honest and strong at the same time. Tessa's phone buzzed again. "The inspector is there," she said. "Do you want to speak with them now or finish lunch first?" "I can talk now," Malik said. He wiped his hands, stood, and followed Tessa outside to take the call at the quiet edge of the sidewalk. He told the inspector what he had seen: the bottle, the misting, the contact with the tongs, the foam when Victor poured water. He described the smell. He did not accuse anyone. He just told the steps in order. The inspector thanked him and asked him to share his name only if he wanted to. Malik said Malik is fine. The inspector said, "Thank you, Malik. You likely prevented someone from getting hurt today." When they returned to the table, Victor had set a small card by Malik's bowl. It was a voucher for a week at a modest hotel nearby. It covered a bed, a shower, laundry, and breakfast. "I can't fix every part of your situation in one day," Victor said. "But I can make sure you rest and wash and keep your notebook dry for a week." Malik stared at the card. He had held many cards in his life: bus passes, meal tickets, library receipts. They felt thin and temporary. This one felt different. It felt like a door that could actually open. He picked it up carefully. "Thank you," he said, and then, because he wanted to be very clear, he added, "The main thing is the stall changes how they do things. I do not want them to get in trouble forever. I just want them to be safe." "Safety is the point," Victor agreed. "Not shame. We can help them fix it." Tessa nodded. "After lunch we can walk back," she said. "If the inspector is still there, we can offer to print labels, buy proper spray bottles, and set up a simple checklist. It would not cost much." Malik's face brightened. "A checklist helps when people are rushed," he said. "You look down and see the next step. You do not have to remember everything in your head." They finished the soup. Victor paid. Before they left, Malik asked the server if he could see their storage area from the doorway. He did not want to invade anyone's space. The server asked her manager, who said yes. Malik stood at the threshold and looked. Boxes were off the ground on racks. A thermometer hung inside the fridge. Bottles had clear labels. He smiled and thanked them. "You do good work," he said. On the walk back to the plaza, the noise seemed softer than before, as if the day had smoothed out its rough edges. Birds hopped near the fountain. A courier wheeled past and called, "Coming through," with a friendly tone. Malik walked a little taller, holding the voucher card like a bookmark inside his notebook so it would not bend. At the stall, a small city vehicle was parked by the curb. A health inspector in a clean jacket spoke to the owner and staff. The inspector had kind eyes and a firm voice. She held test strips, a clipboard, and a printed guide. She saw Victor, Tessa, and Malik approach and nodded. "Thank you for the call," she said. "We confirmed the bottle. It was not food safe. We are closing the stall for today to retrain and reset. No fines yet. We start with education when we can." The owner looked relieved and embarrassed at the same time. "We will do it right," he said. "No more unmarked bottles. We will label every tool. We will throw away anything that touched the spray." Malik stepped forward. "If you want," he said, "I can draw a small sign with pictures. Sanitizer with a blue square. Degreaser with an orange triangle. A hand-washing picture with little bubbles. It helps when people speak different languages." The inspector smiled. "That would help," she said. "Pictures are strong. Thank you." Victor turned to Tessa. "Let's buy a pack of proper spray bottles and a label maker," he said. "Also a roll of tape and a permanent marker for backup." Tessa was already typing. "On it," she said. The inspector showed the staff how to make a simple 3-bucket system: wash, rinse, sanitize. She timed hand washing with them and checked the thermometer in the cold case. She asked for a log to be kept near the counter, not hidden in the back. She told them to check the bottles at the start of each shift. "If it is not labeled, it does not get used," she said. "That is the rule." As the team worked, a few customers drifted back and read the notice that said the stall was closed for training. Most nodded and moved on. One person grumbled, but the inspector spoke with them calmly and explained. The person shrugged and left. The plaza began to feel normal again. The band played a new song. Victor looked at Malik. "You changed the direction of this day," he said. "And maybe the next days after it? I would like to thank you in a way that lasts longer than a week. If you are willing, after you use your hotel voucher, come by my office tomorrow morning. No promises about big things. But I can listen and see what is possible. We can talk about school options and documents. We can also talk about how to make recall notices easier to see for people who need them." Malik thought of the library bulletin board with small print in crowded rows. He thought of people who ate late lunches from discount bins because that was what they could afford, and how they often did not know about recalls until later. "A simple card with a code," he said, thinking out loud. "You scan, and it shows recalls in plain words. Not many pages. Just do not eat or return and the picture of the item. Write it down," Victor said. "Tomorrow you can show us." Tessa handed Malik a small notebook with a clean cover and a pen. "Use this one," she said. "Your old one can rest." He opened it to the first page and drew a square, a triangle, and a hand with bubbles. He wrote "Label every bottle" in neat block letters. The page looked good. It looked like the kind of page a person could carry into a busy kitchen and not lose in the noise. The inspector finished her first round and came over to them. "Thank you again," she said to Malik. "It takes courage to speak up when you are not sure how people will react. Today, you made it easier for me to do my job. You made it easier for these workers to keep their customers safe." Malik nodded. "Thank you for teaching," he said. Victor checked his watch, then looked at Malik with a small smile. "Do you have time to stop by a store?" he asked. "We can get you socks and a warm shirt before you check in. Clean clothes make sleep easier." Malik's mouth tugged into a shy smile. "Yes," he said. "That would be good." They walked toward the corner, past the fountain where the water shone in the sun. The day was the same day it had been when it started, and yet it was not the same. In a notebook, a new first page had been written. On a food stall, new labels would soon appear. In a mind, the feeling of being seen had taken root like a strong, small plant. As they waited at the crosswalk, Victor glanced at Malik. "One more question," he said, light in tone now. "When you shouted, were you afraid?" "Yes," Malik said. "But I was more afraid of what could happen if I stayed quiet." Victor nodded. "That is a good reason to speak." The light changed. They crossed. The future, still unknown, felt one step closer and 1 degree safer, because a boy had turned a smell into a warning, and a warning into action, and strangers had listened. Morning light slid across the tall glass face of the office tower and pooled in soft squares on the lobby floor. The building felt calm and precise, like a clock that had just been cleaned. Security guards greeted people by name. Plants stood in neat rows by the windows. Malik stepped inside with careful steps, his shoes dry and his hair still damp from a long, warm shower at the hotel. He held his old notebook and the new one Tessa had given him. He wore a clean shirt and a pair of socks that did not bunch at the heel. These small changes felt big. Tessa met him near the front desk. She smiled in a warm, practical way, the way someone smiles when good work is about to start. "I'm glad you came," she said. "Mr. Hale wants to see you after we get a quick breakfast." She pointed to the lobby cafe. It looked like a small, bright market with baskets of fruit, a glass case of sandwiches, and a counter where a barista poured steady lines of coffee. Staff moved with quick, tidy motions. There was the soft hiss of steam and the light click of cups. They walked toward the cafe together. Malik's eyes rested on details without forcing them. He saw a worker check the fridge thermometer and write a number on a log. He saw a timer on a hot well count down to a reminder. He saw a stack of wrapped sandwiches with white labels on the top edge, each stamped with a lot code and a date. His steps slowed by a breath. The lot code looked familiar in a way that made his fingers tighten around the notebook. He stopped a pace away from the display, not blocking anyone. Tessa noticed the pause. "Do you see something?" she asked. She kept her voice soft, like a hand placed on a table, not a push. Malik looked closer without touching the case. He kept his hands at his sides. "May I read the label?" he asked the cafe worker. The worker nodded. Malik read the lot code again. He saw the same little ladder of letters and numbers that he had copied from the library bulletin board the week before, from a recall notice about pre-made sandwiches with a risk of listeria. He felt a quiet chill, not fear exactly, but the sensation of a door opening in a place that should be closed. He turned to Tessa. "I think this lot code appeared on a recall notice," he said. "I saw it on the board near the library printer. It might be an early batch on hold, not a full recall. But it should not be on the shelf." Tessa did not doubt him. She stepped to the counter and lifted her corporate badge so the manager would recognize her role. "Could we please double-check the lot codes for these sandwiches?" she asked. "We want to be extra careful." The manager nodded and pulled a printed sheet from a folder beneath the counter. He scanned the list, then frowned and checked a second page. His eyebrows rose in a way that said, quietly, "You might be right." "Everyone, please pause sales of the roast chicken sandwiches," the manager said to the team. He moved the tray to the back and picked up a phone. "I'm calling the supplier to confirm. It looks like the early advisory batch number." Tessa glanced at Malik. "Let's verify," she said, and opened her tablet. She typed the code into the vendor portal. The screen showed a supplier alert from 3 days ago, flagged advisory hold pending. It had gone to a notification list. Tessa scrolled past timestamps, then stopped, and her face tightened. The alert email address for this cafe was an old distribution list that had been retired last year when the team moved systems. The alert had gone to a mailbox no one checked. Victor arrived a moment later, crisp and quiet. He had been told only that Malik had noticed something. He listened as the manager explained the potential mix-up. He looked at the removed tray and the empty space where the sandwiches had been. He thought of the people in the building who grabbed a quick lunch between meetings and ate at their desks. He felt that same cool line of thought he had felt at the plaza: "This is how trust is kept or lost, one small practice at a time." "Good catch," Victor said to Malik. He turned to the manager. "Thank you for moving fast. Please keep them off the floor until we get the supplier's written answer. Let's also check every other product that arrived with that shipment." The manager agreed and began opening a spreadsheet with delivery dates and batch codes. Another employee took out a handheld scanner. The cafe became a smooth scene of quiet action, not panic, only care. Customers kept ordering coffee and fruit, not startled, because the team communicated in even tones. Tessa guided Malik to a small table at the side. "You saw a recall at the library," she said. "How do you keep track of them?" Malik opened his old notebook. The first page with the squares and triangles looked calm and clear. He turned to a later page filled with neat lists. "I copy the main ones," he said. "I write the brand, the product, the picture if there is one, and the lot code. I check again the next day to see if the advisory becomes a full recall. I do this because people like me often eat donated food or discount bin food. We are the last to know. Sometimes the recall pages are hard to read. Too many words. Small pictures. I try to put them in simple lines. Would you show our team?" Tessa asked. "We wanted you to come today to talk about school. But this is important too." Victor led them upstairs to a glass meeting room with a calm view of the city. The table had a carafe of water and 3 glasses. Sunlight lined the edge of the room like a thin ribbon. He called in 2 people, Alec, who ran facilities, and Priya, the corporate chef who oversaw food services across the company's offices. They both arrived within minutes. Victor began with the story of the plaza and the spray bottle. He spoke in simple terms, without drama, because the facts were strong enough. Then he told them about the lobby cafe and the lot code. Priya leaned in, alert and thoughtful. Alec took out a small pad and wrote a few clear lines with a pencil. "Let's audit," Victor said. "Today. Not a complaint tour. A learning tour. We will look at each point of service and see our habits." They started in the lobby cafe. Priya checked the hot well, the cold case, and the back fridge. She asked for logs. The team had logs, but one column had gaps after a printer jam the day before. The label printer had run out of ink at 11:40 a.m., and the backup marker had been misplaced in a drawer that no one labeled. The team had handwritten the last few labels in a rush, and one had a smudge where the number looked like an 8 or a 3. Priya did not scold. She showed how to write the number large and separate the two digits so they would never be confused. She pulled a spare marker from a drawer and taped it to the wall with a bright tab so it would be easy to find. Alec checked the fridge thermometer. It read cool, but not cold enough. He opened the door and listened. The fan made a tired sound. He looked behind the unit and found dust packed like felt around the intake. "Let's schedule a clean," he said. "And let's add a weekly note to brush this. It takes 1 minute. It could save a lot of food." They went upstairs to a small pantry near a conference floor. A bowl of fruit looked fine. A stack of yogurt cups sat in a chilled drawer. A box of granola bars had a broken corner, and the inner packets had slid to an angle. Malik asked if he could fix the box. He taped the corner and turned the bars upright so people would not reach over and crush the packets. It was a small thing, but small things add up. In the staff dining area, a team member showed Priya the recall emails they usually got. Tessa traced the path and found the rule in the email system that had sent certain vendor alerts to the old mailbox. It was a small rule, set long ago, and then forgotten when a new address had been created. Tessa removed the rule and added the right list. She set a daily summary for the first week to make sure nothing got lost. Throughout the walk, Malik said little. He watched. When he spoke, it was to ask a gentle question that showed a gap without blame. "Where do you put markers so people can find them fast? Do you check that fridge coil every Monday or only when someone files a ticket? Does the new person know which label means throw away now and which means use first?" Priya loved the way he asked. She could tell he cared about people, not just rules. At the end of the audit, they sat in a small conference room with a whiteboard. Victor looked at the list of fixes: email rules updated, labels standardized, spare markers taped where needed, fridge coil cleaning added to a weekly list, hot and cold logs to be kept near where the work happens, not in a binder across the room. The list was not long, but it was clear and strong. "Systems, not heroes," Victor said softly. "We do not want our safety to depend on one sharp-eyed person walking by at the right time. We want it to depend on habits that never get tired." Priya nodded. "We can do short practice sessions," she said. 10 minutes per team. We call it stop, check, swap. Stop for 1 breath. Check the label, the log, the temperature. Swap anything uncertain for a fresh tool. If people practice the words, they will do the action when they are busy." Alec added, "I'll set maintenance reminders with pictures." People ignore words. They do not ignore a clear photo of dust on a coil. Tessa turned to Malik. "You said yesterday that 3 things would help most," she said. "Clear recalls in plain language. Safe channels to move surplus. And a stable place to study. Can you explain more? What would that look like?" Malik took the new notebook. He drew a small phone screen. "A card," he said. "On counters and doors where people line up. It has a simple code. People scan. They see recalls in plain words. Not 5 pages. Just a picture, the name, the lot code, and the action: do not eat or return or throw away. Use big letters. If you can, include languages that the staff and the neighborhood speak. He turned the page. He drew a small arrow from a kitchen to a community fridge. Surplus moves fast, he said. Sometimes food is safe, but it will not sell before the date. A driver can take it to a fridge or a shelter. But there should be a last check card on top. The person who receives it can scan and see a yes or no. If any doubt, the rule is simple: when in doubt, throw it out. But most times, safe food can reach people who need it. He turned the page again. A stable place to study, he said. It can be a corner of a cafe or a room near the lobby with a table and a plug. People who are between homes can sign in for 2 hours. They get a locker to keep a notebook. They get a way to print a form. They get a list of the steps to get documents. If you do not rest and you do not have a place to put your papers, you lose them. Then you start again. The room was quiet in a full way, like a pause after a song before the applause. Victor looked at the drawings. They were not fancy. They were clear. He felt respect move through him, not the distant respect given to a hero on a stage, but the close, practical respect for someone who thinks carefully and wants to help others do the same. We can build this, Victor said. Piece by piece. Priya, let's test the recall card in this building and one other site. Tessa, set up the QR page with large fonts and pictures. Alec, draft the surplus route and the last check card. And we will find a study corner. It does not need to be big. It needs a table, a plug, and a door that opens when someone knocks. Malik's face did not break into a big grin. He simply nodded like a person who had lifted a heavy box with help. Thank you, he said. If you want, I can help with the words on the card. Short words. Clear words. We want that, Priya said at once. You have the right ear for it. Before they ended the meeting, Victor asked a last question. What do you want for yourself, Malik? Not just for the system. For you. Malik looked at the edge of the notebook and then out the window. The city spread like a map. I want to finish school, he said. I want to learn more about public health and food safety. I like the way small steps protect many strangers. I also want papers ID, school records so I can stop losing time to forms. Then we will work on papers today, Tessa said. I know a counselor who helps with that. We can start with your birth certificate and go step by step. No rush, but steady. They left the room and walked back through the lobby. The cafe manager waved. Supplier confirmed, he said. That lot was on hold. Nothing sold. We're returning it. Thank you. He looked at Malik and lifted his hand in a small salute. Malik returned the gesture, shy but solid. On the sidewalk outside, the air felt fresh and cool. The traffic had the hum of a city on schedule. Victor stood with Malik for a moment and watched a delivery truck park neatly by the curb. You bring good luck, Victor said, half teasing. Really, you bring good habits. That's better than luck. Malik smiled a little. Habits do not run out, he said. They just need practice. Then let's practice, Victor said. Today, and the day after, and the day after that. They stepped off the curb at the crosswalk when the light changed, moving with the flow of people. The morning had started with a near miss that no one else had seen. It now held a plan made of small parts, each clear and doable. That is how better days begin, with a careful eye, a quiet question, and a group of people who decide to build a system that does not depend on chance. The next morning began with a simple message from Victor that went to every kitchen, cafe, pantry, and break room the company touched. It was short and steady in tone, like a hand on a wheel, we will make our food safety habits easier to see and harder to forget. The subject line read clear plate. Inside were 3 plain steps: fix how recall emails arrive, standardize labels in every location, and post easy recall posters in simple language near where decisions happen. There were no long speeches, no heavy charts. There were pictures of a correct label, a sample log, and a QR code that would link to a page with just the facts and a photo of the recalled item. Priya set up quick pop-up trainings that fit into the day without breaking it. She picked corners near sinks, prep tables, and fridges, and brought a timer and a bin of tools, clean tongs, labels, pens, a small digital thermometer, and a card that said, "Stop. Check. Swap." For 10 minutes at a time, teams practiced a small drill. Stop for 1 breath. Check the label, the temperature, the lot code. Swap anything uncertain for a fresh tool. Malik stood by, a quiet observer with a kind eye. He noticed how one person always reached across a cutting board because the trash bin was in an awkward spot. He noticed how a label roll slid behind a box when the shelf vibrated. He pointed these things out like someone pointing to a rug wrinkle before someone trips. Not everyone welcomed the change at first. A cafe manager with tight schedule said the trainings took time away from service. A regional lead worried about the cost of throwing out items when doubt appeared. "Margins are thin," he said. Victor listened and nodded. He knew margins. Then he answered with the same calm voice he used with investors. "The cost of one mistake is larger," he said. "We are not paying for waste. We are paying for trust. Trust has a price, and it is cheaper than regret." Priya added numbers from her experience. A single incident could erase months of savings. The lead side looked at the stop, check, swap card, and said, "All right. 10 minutes. Show me." Tessa worked on partnerships. She made a list of shelters, churches, and community fridges within a few miles of each office. She called, not to announce a gift, but to ask what actually helped. Most places said the same thing: safe food moves best when it moves fast, and when the sender adds clear notes. Together they shaped a last check card, a half sheet with 4 big boxes. What is it? When was it cooked or opened? Has it been kept hot or cold the whole time? Scan for recalls. The card had a QR code that led to a page built the way Malik liked pages: large letters, a picture, the lot codes, and one action line like "do not eat" or "return to store." On the bottom edge was a phone number that reached a live person during the day. If the receiver had any doubt, they could ask. If no one answered, the rule was simple: when in doubt, throw it out. A week in, Tessa and Alec met with key suppliers. They sat at a plain table with contracts open, not to accuse, but to compare where emails went, who got texts at odd hours, and what happened when someone changed jobs and forgot to update lists. They found small weak links that hid in normal life: a contact tree with 2 old numbers, a label standard that changed by warehouse, and a habit of sending long PDF recall notices when a one-screen alert would be faster. They wrote addendums that said, in polite words, "Please send short alerts to these live addresses and confirm receipt." They agreed on a simple weekly test message. If the message did not arrive, a red light blinked on a dashboard Alec kept open on his screen. In quiet moments between the bustle, Victor and Malik spoke in Victor's office with the door open. Victor asked about forms, and Malik told the truth: he often kept inside. He avoided long forms because each line could be a trap if you had no steady address or lost papers. When you sleep in different places, paper vanishes. Tessa entered with a folder and a gentle plan. "We start with your birth certificate," she said. "Then we get a state ID. With those, we can request school records. I know a counselor who will see you today. We will go step by step. You do not have to run, we will just keep moving." They spent an afternoon at the records office. The waiting room had old chairs and a ticket number that clicked forward like slow rain. Malik filled lines he knew by heart and paused at lines he did not. Tessa did not talk for him, she showed him the website on her phone and let him choose the words. A clerk with a soft voice checked the system and said, "We can mail it," and Tessa said, "He does not have a steady address yet," and the clerk thought, then said, "Pick up in 3 days. Bring this number." They left with a receipt that felt heavier than its weight. Malik folded it into the new notebook and wrote "Keep safe" above it in block letters. Victor visited the city health department with Priya and a slim folder. He brought the clear plate posters, the stop, check, swap, card, and the last check template. He did not bring a film crew. He asked to share the files with any small business that wanted them, no license, no brand stamp. "These belong to the city," he said. He credited Malik for the spark and the inspector for the careful work. The department staff appreciated the tone. They had seen grand gestures that went nowhere. This felt different, small, clean, shareable. News of the plaza moment and the company's changes reached a few reporters. Some wanted a dramatic tale about a billionaire and a brave boy. Victor set a clear boundary. "We will talk about the systems," he said. "We will not put a camera in a child's face. The point is habits and tools anyone can use." A short article ran with a photo of the stop, check, swap, card taped near a sink, not of faces. It listed a link to the recall page and the city's food safety hotline. Malik read the article in the library. He liked that it showed the card. One afternoon, Priya drove Malik to a hotel kitchen across town. The chef there, a kind woman with a sharp memory, had worked with Malik's mother years ago. She met them at the staff door, hugged her arms to hold back emotion, and said, "Your mother taught me to label everything, even the broom closet." She said, "Labels are how we talk to our tired selves." They walked the kitchen together. Malik touched the cool edge of a prep table, felt the hum of fridges, and saw the neat rows of tape and pens. The chef pulled a small, flower-spotted photo from a drawer, Malik's mother laughing with a hairnet on crooked. "She made us better," the chef said. "You are doing the same." That night, at the hotel desk in the corner of his room, Malik sketched the poster that had been turning in his head since the plaza. He kept it simple, 3 pictures and 3 words. A nose with a tiny puff, smell. An eye with a label in view, sight. A bottle with a big clear name, label. Under each he placed one line: "If the smell is wrong, stop. If you cannot see the date, stop. If the bottle has no name, stop." He brought the sketch to Priya in the morning. She loved it at once. A designer cleaned the lines but kept the heart. By Friday, printers hummed. The posters went up near sinks, prep tables, and storage rooms. Staff took photos next to them and sent them to friends who ran small cafes. As the first month closed, the numbers began to tell their quiet story. Tessa collected reports from each site. Near miss notes dropped. Not to zero. No honest report says zero, but enough to show the new habits were holding. Recall alerts reached the right mailboxes within minutes, not days. The surplus route moved trays of safe, labeled food to partners by mid-afternoon, not at closing time. A shelter director sent a note that said, "The last check card is clear. Our volunteers can read it fast. The QR page is short and honest. Thank you." Alex coil cleaning reminder took 1 minute and made the fridges hold temperature more steadily. The maintenance ticket volume dipped. Priya's 10-minute drills spread on their own. Crews started doing them before rushes like athletes doing warm UPS. The human parts mattered more than the charts. A new hire in a busy cafe told Malik she liked the stop, check, swap words because they were easy to remember when her brain felt full. A custodian said he scanned the recall code on his break and texted the link to his cousin who worked at a deli in another part of town. A manager who had pushed back early stopped by a training, watched for 2 minutes, and then helped a team member tape the spare marker to the wall. "It saves time," he admitted with a small shrug. I was wrong. Malik's days filled with small, strong steps. In the morning he checked in with the counselor and signed the line for his ID progress. At noon he shadowed a training and kept a quiet list of tiny frictions that could be sanded smooth. In the afternoon he sat near a window at the office's new study corner, a table, a plug, a locker with his initials on a tape label, and worked through a course on microbiology basics. The room had a sign on the door, 2-hour study slots. Ask at the desk. Sometimes another student sat across from him and they studied in polite silence, the kind that feels like a shared promise. He did not become a mascot. He became a worker. Priya paid him a fair stipend for his hours and gave him a schedule like anyone else's. She made sure he signed forms he understood and kept copies in his locker. Tessa checked in but did not hover. Victor, when he passed, asked 2 questions that showed he truly wanted to know: what small thing made your day easier, and what small thing still gets in your way? One afternoon, the answer was simple. I need a lanyard, Malik said, touching the pocket where he kept his temporary pass. I keep checking my pocket to make sure it didn't fall out. Tessa handed him a lanyard from a drawer with a smile. Small fix, she said. Big calm. The city health department printed the smell. Site. Label. Poster on their own letterhead and offered it to any kitchen that asked. A downtown diner hung it next to their specials board. A school cafeteria taped it to the fridge. A night shift manager at a hospital texted a photo of their crew making the stop. Check. Swap. Sign with their hands before serving midnight trays. The poster did not solve every problem, but it helped people make good choices in the moment when moments are tight. On the last day of the month, Victor stood in the lobby cafe with Malik and Priya. The manager pulled a tray of sandwiches from the back. The labels were bold. The lot codes had clean lines. A small card sat in the corner: if you are unsure, ask. They watched a team member do the drill before lunch, not because someone told her to do it for the boss, but because the habit had settled into her hands. She stopped. She checked. She swapped a tong because it had rested on the wrong side of a line on the prep table. She smiled at herself and moved on. Victor turned to Malik. You started a change that fits into real life, he said. Not a big idea that needs a parade. A simple set of steps that workers can actually do. Malik nodded. Small is strong, he said. And it spreads. They stepped outside. The air smelled like bread, coffee, and a little rain coming. People moved past with bags and plans. Somewhere, a printer clicked out another smell. Site. Label. Poster. Somewhere else, a phone buzzed with a one-screen recall alert instead of a 10-page file. In many places, hands washed to a quiet 20 and reached for a clean tool. The chain that brought food to mouths had a few more bright links, now links that would hold when the day grew busy, because a boy had noticed, a team had listened, and a company had decided that trust is worth the careful work. Morning light touched the city in a soft way, washing windows and warming the tops of buses as they rolled past the plaza. Malik woke up before his alarm, not because of fear, but because the day felt full and clear. On the table by the hotel bed lay his new ID, his birth certificate copy, and a small schedule card with his class times. He looked at the card and smiled. The dates and hours made a neat ladder. He liked ladders. They showed where to place your feet. He dressed in the clean shirt he saved for good days and tucked his old notebook in his bag next to the new one. He checked the pocket for his pass, clipped his lanyard, and took one last look around the small room to be sure he left nothing behind. The bedspread was smooth. The desk was clean except for a pencil stub and a folded thank you note he planned to leave for the housekeeper. He placed the note on the pillow, closed the door, and stepped into the hallway with a calm breath. At the office, the new study corner had a little morning crowd. A student in a gray hoodie worked on a tablet. A man studying for a licensing test whispered numbers under his breath. Malik took the locker with his initials, put away his documents, and set his books on the table. The room had a tiny plant on the windowsill. Someone had placed a sticky note next to it, watered on Tuesday. Small habits lived even in small leaves. Tessa came by with a folder and a gentle knock on the doorframe. "Ready?" she asked. "Your bridging program meets at the community college today. I'll walk you to the bus, and then you can handle it from there." "I can handle it," Malik said, and she nodded, because she believed him. She would be close if needed, not in the way. They crossed the plaza. The fountain flashed like a handful of coins tossed into light. The street stall that had caused so much trouble weeks earlier was open again. A new sign hung at the counter: "Smell. Sight. Label." The bottles were marked in clear letters. The owner saw them and lifted a hand in greeting. No speech, just respect. Malik lifted his hand back and kept walking. He was happy for them. He did not need thanks to feel the change. The bus ride was short. He watched the city pass, people with coffee cups, a child in a bright backpack, a woman laughing into her phone, and felt a smooth kind of joy that had no sharp corners. At the college, a counselor in a denim jacket met him at the door. She had kind eyes and a clipboard. "Welcome to the bridge program," she said, and showed him a room with long tables and clean whiteboards. "You will earn high school credits while studying food safety and basic public health. We keep the language simple and the ideas strong." Malik sat near the front. The teacher drew a circle and wrote "chain" next to it. "Food safety is a chain," she said. "You are not the whole chain. You are one link. Your job is to be a bright link. Bright links hold." Malik felt the idea settle inside him like a tool neatly placed in a tray. The classes moved at a steady pace. He read about bacteria and time-temperature rules. He practiced with a digital thermometer and checked the cold hold of a training fridge. He learned how to write a simple corrective action when something went wrong, not a long paragraph, just "found at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Discarded. Coil cleaned. Rechecked at 38 degree F." He liked the clean rhythm of those lines: facts, fix, proof. After class, he walked back to the office for his afternoon hours with Priya. She had a list of kitchens to visit and 10-minute drills to watch. In one pantry, he saw a label starting to peel from a container. He pressed it back and then replaced it with a fresh one, big and clear. In another, he found a spare marker had slipped from its tape. He retaped it, then added a second strip as backup. These were small things, but he knew small things pile up fast when people are busy. He wrote double tape on his list of tiny fixes that make days smoother. Victor kept a wide view of the changes from his desk upstairs. He did not hover. He asked for one-page updates, the kind that tell the truth without noise. The updates showed fewer gaps in logs, quicker responses to vendor alerts, and a smooth flow of safe surplus moving to partners before dinner. The last check card with its 4 big boxes kept showing up in photos from many places: church kitchens, school cafeterias, and even a firehouse which had printed the card on thick paper and put it near their fridge. One afternoon, a message arrived from the city health department. They planned to adopt a clean version of the smell. Sight. Label. Poster for public use. They also wanted to include a simple stop. Check. Swap. Guide in their small business starter packets. Short words save time, the email said. We will use short words. Priya forwarded the note to Malik with a smile emoji and the line, "You made plain language cool." Malik laughed quietly at his desk and went back to his course module. He did not need to be the center of it. He was glad the work moved. In the second month, Victor's foundation announced small scholarships for students who wanted to study hospitality, food safety, or public health. The awards were for people with tight budgets and strong discipline, not for perfect test scores. Malik read the simple rules twice, then filled the application like he filled logs: clear, honest, complete. He wrote about the librarian who saved him a seat near the window, about the volunteer who taught him to date a milk jug, about speaking up in the plaza because being quiet felt more dangerous. He did not write big words. He wrote true ones. When the results came, he was in the study room. The email said awarded. He read the line again. The scholarship did not fix everything or promise everything. It paid for classes and books and gave him a small stipend so he could work fewer hours while he studied more. He felt the same feeling he had felt with the hotel voucher: a door opening, but this door led further. He texted Tessa a simple message: it came. She replied with 3 words he liked: you earned it. With steady papers and steady class hours, Malik took a part-time job as a prep assistant in one of Priya's kitchens. He worked the quiet shift before the lunch rush, washing herbs, labeling containers, checking the fridge gauge, and setting clean tools at each station. He liked the way the room hummed as people arrived and settled into their tasks. He liked saying "behind you" in a calm voice when he walked with a heavy bin. He liked washing his hands to 20 and drying them all the way, not just half. He did not become a symbol pasted on a poster. He became a teammate. He wore a clean apron with his name stitched on a patch. He earned pay that arrived when it was supposed to. He fixed small snags before they grew. He ate his break meal in a chair, not on a curb. Those were strong, quiet wins, and he counted them in his head, not on a screen. During this time, the plaza kept living its normal life. On a bright day with sharp shade under the trees, a tourist lifted a pastry at a corner cafe just as a cleaner sprayed the table next to the display. The mist drifted toward the tray. Malik saw it from the counter as he picked up a coffee for Priya. His hand moved before he spoke. He set the coffee down, stepped forward with a gentle smile, and said, "Hold on. Let's switch that out." He did not raise his voice. He lifted the tray, set it aside, and asked for fresh pastries from the back. The staff nodded at once, already reaching for new tongs. The tourist blinked, then thanked him. It was not a dramatic moment. It was a normal moment made safer by a habit that had learned to wake up fast. Word of a small graduation came weeks later. The bridge program planned a short ceremony in the college cafeteria, with folding chairs and a simple banner taped above the stage. Malik wore the same neat shirt he had worn on the day he first met the counselor. He stood with other students who had worked shifts and studied at night and sat in waiting rooms with forms as long as clocks. A teacher handed him a certificate and a small pin shaped like a circle, the same circle the teacher had drawn when she said chain. When it was his turn to speak, he kept it brief. He thanked the kitchens that had trained him. He thanked the library for the window seat. He thanked the city inspectors who taught without shaming and the workers who took 10 minutes to practice something that saved time later. He ended with his mother's voice, the one that had never blurred in his memory: label the bottle, wash the tongs, check the time. The words were not poetry. They were better. They were steps. At the back of the room, Victor stood without drawing notice. He clapped like any other person. Tessa filmed a short clip on her phone, just a few seconds with clear sound, and later sent it to an aunt Malik had found and called in another city. The aunt wrote back crying face emojis and hearts and a line: "He looks like his mother when he thinks." The next week, the city's website posted the smell. Site. Label. Poster in 3 languages, free to print. A cafe in a different neighborhood sent a message to Priya asking if they could use the last check card. A school principal wrote that the stop. Check. Swap. Many drill help student volunteers serve lunch with confidence. The stall owner from the plaza dropped off a thank you note with a small bag of properly labeled bread rolls. Malik shared the rolls with the study room group and placed the note in his locker for days when he needed to remember that changes can hold. One evening, with the sun low and gold, Victor found Malik on a bench outside the office. The bench faced the plaza, which moved in soft waves of people heading home. Victor sat with a careful space between them and handed over 2 sealed waters. They did not rush to talk. They watched the fountain. They watched a child step from square to square on the path, counting softly to herself. Next steps. Victor said at last, not as a test, just as a friend who likes plans. More classes, Malik said. Then the exam for a food protection certificate. Maybe later, public health. I like the way small rules protect many strangers. He paused. Also, I will keep checking bulletin boards for recalls. Habit. Victor smiled. Keep that habit. Habits built this place. Habits keep it safe. He took a slow drink of water and wiped the bottle with his sleeve, a small, tidy motion that fit his whole way of life. One more thing, he added. We've been calling you careful. You are. But you are also brave. You spoke when you were afraid. That is a different muscle. It deserves rest, too. Let your careful habits carry the daily load. Use your brave voice when you must. Malik nodded. That makes sense, he said. He felt the words land in a right place inside him. Night lights began to blink on across the plaza. The band was gone, but a guitar player strummed a gentle tune near the fountain. Workers stacked chairs. The stall owner pulled down his awning and checked his labeled bottles one more time. A delivery truck rolled away. The sky shifted to a deep, steady blue. They stood to go. At the cafe door, a small poster hung at eye level. It had 3 pictures and 3 words: smell, sight, label. The edges were a little curled from steam, and someone had taped them back neatly. People passed the poster without staring at it. That was the point. It was part of the room, like the sink, like the soap, like the clock that marked the hours. Many people would never know who drew the first sketch or who poured the first cup of water to prove a point. They would never know the story of a shout in a plaza or a boy's notebook with block letters on the first page. They would just be safer. Malik touched the lanyard on his chest and felt the weight of a keycard that opened doors he had once watched from the outside. He walked inside to finish a small task he had promised to do: restock labels by the prep table because he wanted to end the day with a complete list. Victor headed toward the elevator to read one more one-page update before going home. The city kept moving around them, the way cities do. But in kitchens and cafes and break rooms, hands stopped for a breath, eyes checked a label, and tools swapped for clean ones. A chain with many links held, not because one hero tightened it, but because many people did small, right things in the right order. That was the story now. And it would go on tomorrow, and the day after that, as ordinary and strong as the sound of water in a fountain at evening.